Welcome to What the Hell Happened This Week. I'm Danielle.
And I'm Dustin. Welcome.
Welcome on. Come on in. Just like every other week, we're never short on content. So
It's just like, what could we talk about in 30, 45 minutes? Because it's just nonstop these days.
I saw it was like a thread or something. It was like, believe it or not, we used to go weeks without hearing from our president.
Right.
That was normal.
Yeah,
Like
it's
the
like, hey,
state of
people,
the
hey, remember this is not normal. It used to be like
Most people would
months.
only hear from the president in the State of the Union addresses.
Right. Now they insist on us hearing about them and hearing from them constantly all day, every day. And it's just wearing people down, you
Well,
know?
Trump orchestrated that because he's a show business guy, so
Yeah, I
he
mean,
he
he
can't
knows
help himself.
ratings and and we're seeing now how much power there is with just the constant stream of attention, even if it's like pumping a lot of fear. It
Mhm.
emboldens one side against the other, and it's just it's overwhelming and scaring a lot of people, not just here it's around the world too.
Mhm. All right. Well, what should we get started with?
I think we can talk about like the markets right now.
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of like kind of weird stuff happening right now because for instance, we have the stock market still at all-time highs,
Mhm.
holding mark. People are wondering, we get messages a lot, especially from people that are Democrats or liberals or whatever, like how could this keep going? So we can talk a little bit about that, um, and the fact that at the same time we have gold at all-time highs and climbing, which is there's a lot of contradictory stuff going on in the market, and
Mhm.
something's probably going to have to give.
Mhm.
We can't predict what's going to happen, but we can use our experience and kind of run through some scenarios because I was looking at a statistics that just came out yesterday that I saw. I forgot who it was, whether it was, I think it was Bloomberg, maybe. The statistics that 20% of the consumption of the United States, um, let me start the other way. 50% of the entire consumption of the United States, of the consumer buying thing in the United States, comes from just the top 10% of
Mhm.
wealth owners in the United States. So the top 10% are driving the economy, and the problem with that is 60% of wage earners in the United States are only responsible for 20% of the consumption, just highlighting the tremendous amount of wealth equality and that
Inequality.
inequality, sorry, and that we have that K-shaped economy where you have,
Mhm.
10, 20% of America doing well, and the bottom half, 60%, are doing worse and worse every year. And that's a big problem with the underlying fundamentals of our economy.
Right. So that's you're right. There's so many conflicting things happening because we are getting clients worried about, in general, just everything that's been happening this year. And then also specifically, like potentially a government shutdown. Um,
Yeah.
some weird things happening this week with Pete Hegseth, and people are on edge. And meanwhile, it seems like every week it's a new 52-week high. So
Hmm.
it's this constant question and balance of um, trying to predict what's going to happen, and then just also trying to help our clients navigate through this emotionally, trying to make the most educated and suitable decisions because we don't know what's going to happen either. But to your point, this wealth inequality at some point is going to bubble over. That for sure is not sustainable. So what happens when you have a workforce that has just continued stagflation, where inflation keeps increasing and their wages are not going anywhere? Their net worths are not going anywhere. The amount of credit and debt that they're taking on is increasing. Because
Right. That's another thing.
even though their consumption is, what did you say, 20% of the consumption?
From 60% of American wage earners.
I mean, what does history tell us of what happens when these giant wealth inequality gap? I mean, we can look at the Gilded Age, we can look at other time periods. But what
It's not good.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's all it's doesn't
It's
end
very
well.
at the same time you have, because I'm someone that, you know, ag- I've lived through the 2008 crisis. I was pretty new then as a financial advisor, only in the business for 3 or 4 years when that happened. So it was like a big shock to me on how the economy really works. And I tell the story a lot that at that time trying to understand it because I was in it for 2 or 3 years of just hell dealing with it and people coming to me with their life savings worried, is this the end? And I had to be strong for them. And I just dug into, yeah, past crises, Great Depression, and it really changed who I am and, uh, you know, developed my politics a lot because I realized then that economics and politics are completely interlinked and I've always been of the opinion since then that really the economy is driven from the bottom up. It's what our
Mhm.
workers do, it's what working class people are, how are they feeling? And at this moment, I'm seeing all of that disintegrating, all of those fundamentals. And then when you tie in a mass deportation of immigrants, which
Mhm.
is a lot of our underlying fundamentals of our economy, uh, for when it comes to food and retail and all that, because
Mhm.
we are a service economy, that's happening too. At the same time, we're seeing tremendous uh, wealth inequality of our citizens. It to me, it's just red flags are going up everywhere. But at the same time, I tell people, and I've said this before too, you also have to understand how bubbles happen as well, because sometimes the last few innings of,
Mhm.
if we're going to use that analogy of a baseball game, for instance, sometimes the last few innings of a bubble, you see some of the greatest games.
Mhm.
And we're seeing that. So the bubble keeps going for a while. And you have a lot of people that don't think that we're in a bubble, because we have like AI, we have this new technology that a lot of people think changes the game, changes American history and our economy for good. So people don't believe the bubble, and which makes it even worse. So we could continue seeing market prices continue to increase for a while until there's some kind of trigger that makes it fall apart. I don't know when that will be. So um, it's easy to say, well, tomorrow it's just going to fall apart, and that's an easy play where let's get out of the market. But we
Yeah.
don't know for sure.
It's always easier to imagine scenarios in your head of timing the market because people generally know you can't really time the market. But it's when people get really scared and fearful, you start running these scenarios through your head, but you never have clarity on it because people say, "Well, if I get out now, and then let's say the market crashes when there's a government shutdown, if that happens and there's a 10% drop, and then I'll get back in." What happens if you move to cash and then it drops 10%? And then what people don't account for is what it feels like when the market actually does drop 10%. Because then you're thinking, well, is it going to continue to drop? When do I jump back in? Because what if it goes down another 5% tomorrow and 5 after that? And so eventually you're at the point where um, you find yourself more than likely what ends up happening is once people get on the sidelines, they typically don't get back in at the right time or they wait too late to when things have already started going back up. So it's just a real hairy, sticky, tricky scenario to try and get right. That's why they say not to really try that. The best thing and what we try to do is try and get people to make not so much entire, like, large movements, right? We start trying to think about, like, what percentage of each account would you like to move, and based on that account's specific goals and time horizon, and try and make those moves and take some chips off the table while things are good, and then walking them through that process of, this is for if things are a downside, and then we also have to explain we can't get all the way out because, like you said, we could still have some gains to be had. So it's more delicate and complicated, I think, than most people realize, but that's exactly what we do every day.
Yeah, and not everybody has, big portfolios where they can make
Mhm,
moves. I mean, there's a lot of America that is living day to day. A lot of people have, you know, have credit cards maxed out. We see that a lot as well. I think right now, yes, I think making sure that you're not overbuying things. Um, Making sure if you have high credit card debt, you have plans to try to start paying that down. Now's not the moment to make big purchases on credit, um, and because if there in a market downturn, a lot of jobs can be lost. So just like in the financial crisis, we had a huge credit problem, lots of bankruptcies, lots of
mhm,
lots of families were destroyed, divorce rates went up, suicides went up. So there's a lot of things that can happen. So it's important not to. It's important to at this point try to get your spending under control. Try to get your debt, your high interest debt, under control. If you have investments, to take some chips. If you have a lot of stocks in your 401k or whatever, take some chips off. The good thing is there is some things like bonds are doing pretty well right now, because we have 4 or 5% interest rates on bonds. You can get CDs. Money markets are paying good right now to park your money in cash. So there is alternatives to the market that you can slowly get out of. And we've talked about things like precious metals. Precious metals, especially gold, is kind of tailor made for this moment because um, I always tell people three things that drive up gold prices and why we're seeing it continue to climb this year, meeting new all-time highs, and it could go much higher is because gold does well in inflationary environments. We have that. Gold does well when there's heightened fear and uncertainty. We definitely have that. And then the third thing is our dollar devaluing. A lot of gold does well in that type of environment. So, again, not making investment recommendations here. We have to be careful about that as financial advisors, but everybody's situation is different. It's good to diversify yourself. Um, and just kind of give an example too that I wanted to talk about just to kind of transition into what we're seeing with AI, because I think that is the heart of the issue here, where you have uh, just a few AI companies and internet companies really can driving the market completely. We're seeing a lot of other stocks in the S&P 500 are already slowing down their growth or falling, but you have just a few companies, the fabulous seven, they call them, that are really 30% of the market value, I think is what it is, really driving because there's this thing that AI is just going to change everything about our economy for the better. That's why these are becoming so valuable. We don't know that because I use AI. Yes, I use ChatGPT, but there's so many problems with it as well. I mean, sometimes I use it to, if something I'm writing and that I'll ask it to make it better or whatever, and it just messes it up. Sometimes I wonder if I spend, if I could that I wasted much more time just dealing with the AI
mm,
if I would have just worked harder on it myself.
yeah,
So that's kind of what I think is going to come to a head here. And at the same time, I saw right before we went live, I was looking. There was some big AI conference, I think yesterday or something, and there was some announcements that they were making. Um, and OpenAI, which is I think ChatGPT and stuff, said that they're intending to spend trillions of dollars on new data centers, trillions of dollars in new data centers in the coming years, not 10 years. We're talking about in the next few years because it's a tremendous amount of energy that AI uses. And already we're seeing these data centers become unpopular. I saw an article yesterday or the day before, someplace like Michigan or something, where they fended off like a new data center being built. Well, these things are going to be built somewhere, and I think in Republican red states, we're going to start seeing more of these data centers come in, not pay taxes, suck up a lot of resources. I compare it to a big tick, you know, to come in, suck up resources, fuel costs, drive up utilities, take a lot of our water, um, and again, it's taking, there's this loud buzzing sound that comes off of these things that people can hear for miles and miles.
Mm.
We're going to see a lot of things changing our economy. And that's going to be real unpopular even in red states.
Not to mention ethical, um, the potential ethical damage that it's going to do to everyone, because we all know they're not putting standards in place to keep AI from from inciting or encouraging things, or um, like, if people become more and more dependent on AI, then they have a responsibility to be extremely ethical in how that information is disseminated. And I just don't think that those guardrails are, the care is not being taken to put those in place, because it's all about
Yeah.
profit right now. It's like the
y-
gold rush right now.
Yeah. And that's another thing too, the government use of AI. We're
Mhm.
already um, seeing uh, the Trump administration use, uh, he's hooking up his cronies and his big billionaire friends and all these media mergers that he's allowing to happen. He's egging them on to where a lot of his friends and allies are going to control almost all the media that we consume. We just had the TikTok deal where you're going to have Ellison, which is a big Trump. He's one of the richest men in the world, has like 200, $300 billion in value or wealth. Um, Larry Ellison, all buying TikTok. I think he's buying a lot of other media companies as well and TV companies. Um, and you're having Mark Andreessen also in TikTok, where they are likely going to change these algorithms. I don't know for sure, but they could easily change these algorithms and make it like a MAGA media machine. Um, so, and how could they use AI and our surveillance system that we have growing in America? It just seems like the time that this unbelievable power is growing, we also have that power resting in few and few people with less and less safeguards, and that's the
Yeah,
scary part.
less government supervision. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I
it's
don't
a
think it can. I don't think that AI can continue. To me, it's unproven technology. Yes, there's a lot of things that it can do that can increase productivity, but I'm still skeptical that it's going to be a game changer. Uh, for good reasons. If anything, too, a big problem is if it does steal a lot of jobs, what are we going to do with all the people that don't have jobs?
yeah.
We're not going to, we're definitely not increasing the social safety net. We're going backwards on that too. So there's just so many converging things that are just
And
spilling.
you look at the full picture, you even go, because a lot of times people's fallback is how, oh, well, maybe our saving grace is that, Trump ties his, or in the past, he tied his personal success to the stock market. But I think he's outgrown that. Like, I don't think that we can like rely on that as a type of safeguard, because all you have to do is look at his grift into crypto. And I think for him, that's kind of like, I, I think he doesn't even care anymore about, like, the people we were talking about earlier, 60% of the population. I just don't know how all of this is going to play out, but we do know that Trump is going to take care of himself and his friends. and that's what an autocracy looks like. Um,
Yeah, and also using if we do have a big fallout in the economy, and including the government shutdown, I think that him and his administration are gonna use it to consolidate more power
mhm.
and use it to divide Americans even more, blame the Democrats. I think they know that a government shutdown is likely, and, the problem with that is they'll probably use the government shutdown, to that gives the executive more control over the money that we do have. How will it be spent? Um, and if it does cause widespread harm to working class people, I think he'll blame his enemies for it and possibly get away with it again because he has this massive media machine that controls the narrative.
And, getting away with it, that's something I've been thinking a lot about and talking to my husband about, who's an immigrant. And one of the things we touched on this a little bit last week, but one of the things that's really glaring to me is this is all happening with very little resistance. They likely will, complete Project 2025 and do everything they want to do, take everything they want to take. Because up until now, we haven't really seen any resistance. There was one big protest over the summer. There hasn't, other than we've seen it happen successfully with Target, with the African American community, but there's no real organization to stop anything that's happening. Um,
Yeah, and
uh,
I want to be careful not to be too doom and gloomy too, because in a weird way, I'm becoming a little more optimistic about some things. Of course, I still think that things will get worse before they get better, but I do I don't necessarily see us falling as fast to a place like Russia or China because um, we have to remember, like Russia, for existence, that has had a dictator for the last 20, 30 years. They have no history of a democracy um, um, at all. And China as well, and a lot of other countries that are still stuck in these dictatorships. So I do have faith that Americans will turn because um, we are used to democracy. We do have the rule of law, strengthened rule of law more than any other country in the world. And you know, even though other countries have been through fascism, Germany and Italy and Spain, they came out of it and they came out of it stronger. Um, and so a lot of stuff seems like it's happening. A lot of it too is our media. We have to realize that a lot of people are at home right now. Yes, not everybody's in the streets right now because they're all on their phones. In a way, I think that could be an advantage too because it makes me seem like, are people really going to civil war whenever we have when we're watching TV all the time and Netflix and on TikTok all the time? I'm a little skeptical of that. I think we're overestimating what this administration can do. Again, there's a lot of incompetent people running things, and they're losing a lot of people, by gutting the FBI, by the Justice Department, things like that. Yes, it's really bad, but there's um, a lot of talent that they've kicked out of there, and I think I don't know. I don't know really know how to explain it, but it's just something I've been thinking about this morning. That
yeah.
it's going to be harder and harder for them to do this because again, there's 340 million people or something like that in America. You already have 50 to 60% that thinks like that we're in a dictatorship and do not like Trump. Like we have a lot of people he's going to have to overcome, and I think we're going to see him as that public opinion changes, and it's changing rather quickly. Yes, get more crazy and more belligerent and try more and more things, but I'm doubtful that he's able to get away with this long term.
Yeah, I guess I mean, I'm with you on, like, having that hopeful, I go in waves, really, but my biggest fear, I think, at this point is I feel like if we are able to have fair elections, that it will turn the other way. But my fear is that that won't be allowed to happen and that he'll do something drastic like start a war, So I think a lot of people are really concerned with what Pete Hegseth has done this week, late this week, which is he's called 100 of like around 400 total generals around the world to go to Virginia. Some are saying some are saying it's a consolidation, pledge who's going to pledge allegiance, who isn't. And I know that has a lot of people scared because ultimately one of the legal ways they have to not have elections is to be in a war. So I think a lot of people are scared about that. But I'm with you on the hope. No, like I think I agree. I don't think it can go long term, but my fear is that they find a way to um, not allowing for fair
Uh,
elections.
uh,
I think that's most people's biggest fear.
Connection.
Yeah, I
I
saw
think you may
it's
have cut out. I think
in
you
my
may have
back.
cut out on your. Yeah, I didn't know if it was
Okay,
me or you.
I
Um,
think it's me.
So part of the sound went out for about 10 seconds. But yeah,
Okay.
the fear should definitely still be there because I do think that they're going to try to alter the elections and try to meddle in it. And yes, they may get away with it, but I think it may. I'm my hopeful nature, and I'm been pessimistic a lot lately. Is that you know people will know it. We're talking about it. We do have social media right now. we, um, we do have media. It's a long way for them to I would be really scared if, like, for instance, they banned, a lot of media and social media from taking places at all, which they've done in a lot of other countries. They've
Mhm.
banned, um, uh, even in China, they do it. I think Facebook is still banned there. So that's at least we're able to communicate. So if they do try to do all those things, which they will, the fear is there. They will do it. I have faith in our ability as Americans that we have 150 million people that would say no more. And especially if they cause economic downturns, which
Mhm.
will happen. I mean, we're seeing right now what they're doing to farmers. Farmers are being just killed. A lot of them are going bankrupt all over the country. Um, this happened before in Trump's last one. He had to have a bailout. Probably going to have another one. Um, in this recession that we may have, a big recession, or it could be a major one, is going to hit working class people the most, and a lot of them are his supporters.
Mhm.
He's going to have to do a lot to try to convince them that it wasn't his fault.
Yeah.
Because again, we have 50-60% of Americans right now that already know that it's going to be his fault. So we're going to, as long as we're able to talk about it, explain it to the American people, which I think we will. I think we can overcome this. So I am hopeful there. Yeah, just talking about farmers, um, another big news report that just came out is Argentina is going under right now. And I will remind people, President Milei, I think who he is, he was the inspiration for Doge. So he's the Argentinian new president that got in power a few years ago, and his whole thing was taking a chainsaw to the government and
So
cutting
he
it up.
did he actually grab a chainsaw like for the
Yes,
TV?
that was like part of his thing.
Elon completely stole that from him.
Yes, I mean, Trump's had him in the White House many times. Elon has, he's literally like what MAGA looks up to for like economic policy. And he took a chainsaw to the government in Argentina
Yeah, they need
over
to bail out.
over the past 6 months. Yeah, a year ago when Biden was president, they're like, "Oh, look, Argentina's economy is growing, and Biden isn't doing anything." Whatever. They were like using him as like um, the statue of what they want the American economy to be. And now look, they're going under. So it just shows that,
Classic.
yeah, it's so perfect.
These
And
things
now,
write themselves.
and the thing is
You
too,
just
what
have to
people,
wait you just have to wait around long enough for
yeah, and Argentina has stolen a lot of uh, the markets for soybean farmers in the United States too, because so as China and a lot of other countries, tariffs and everything, they're trying to penalize America, saying that they don't want to buy our soybeans and things like that. Well, places like Argentina and Brazil uh,
they're like,
took
we
those
have
markets.
soybeans. We'll sell to
Yes.
China."
So not only that, not only has they inspired Elon Musk to destroy a lot of what we stand for in America and undermining our own economy. They stole markets from farmers, which a lot of those farmers probably voted for Trump. And now Argentina is going to get the bailout while our farmers are still sitting there empty-handed right now. Classic.
But he's a stable genius, right?
So again, he's getting away with it now, but every day that passes, more and more people are getting pissed off. Um, so I think it's going to force him to move faster and faster and faster to try to consolidate power. But I'm just very doubtful that he's going to be able to accomplish what he thinks he needs to accomplish. I
Um,
hope.
y- we're only about 10% through this presidency, right?
Yeah. Uh,
I saw I saw that statistic last night, and I got really sad, really sad. 10%. It's
well,
only
probably
9 months
about
in.
20%. Was it 4 years? Yeah, yeah,
Let's go
maybe
with
so. About
15. Let's
20.
go with
Yeah, 15 to 20.
Ah, well, okay. What else? So, okay, real quick before we go, what's going to happen with the shutdown? How likely are we going to go into a shutdown? What do the Democrats ultimately want? And how do you see this ending?
Um, yeah, I've seen so many of these shutdowns. I think we're definitely going to go into one because we went into shutdowns in the past for far stupider reasons.
Mhm.
Um, I think the Democrats are going to have to, because how can they participate um, in a government to keep running like a machine without any
Mhm.
pushback? I think
Mhm.
they know this. They're going to do it. I listened to the Ezra Klein podcast on this. He did like a video essay on this, how we should, and it makes sense. I worry about the Democrats using it for the messaging in the right way. Like right now, we're talking about healthcare subsidies, which are important, but I think you really have to, with the attention that we're going to have for the shutdown, I think you really have to hammer um, the Republicans on the fear that they're creating as far as mass men in the streets, the giant amount of corruption,
Yes, I
Donald
agree with
Trump's
that.
Donald Trump uh, his net worth growing by $5 billion in the past 6 months, the crypto
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, all of that I think is what the
And
messaging needs to be.
they're constantly in arguments over what the messaging is. And there's a reason why some people think the messaging needs to be the healthcare perspective, but that's not ultimately what the American people are saying. We're saying, y'all aren't doing anything, y'all are writing strongly worded letters. This is your chance to stand up and say out loud, we don't agree with this. These are the listing of all the things of why we're moving towards this fascist takeover. They need to make this a moment. And if they don't, I think whether it'll move the mark or not, I'm not sure, but we at least need to put up a concerted effort that's in alignment with the American people and that they are all in agreement with themselves. So we can at least say, hey, well, they did do this. They tried to do this in September, October, in the fall of 2025.
Yeah, I think also I was reminded. I think um, the problem of the government shutdown is in the Senate because you need like 60 votes
Mhm.
for a filibuster proof majority, and that's where most government shutdowns has happened. And again, I'm like, hate the filibuster. I think it's stupid that you have to have 60 senators agree on something. It's already, the Senate is so unfair for the right wing. You have two senators from North Dakota, two senators from South Dakota. So that's four senators, and they only have like a million people between the two states. And then compared to California, which has 40 million people, and they only get two senators. So it's already
Yeah.
so unfair. And then to add another layer of the filibuster, um, where you need another 10 people to agree on things like this is ridiculous. But the problem is, just like everything, the Republicans don't allow us to do it. They shame us because we have shame. The Democrats have shame. So they always shame us into stopping the filibuster or breaking the filibuster tradition. And as soon as they get power, they're going to break the filibuster.
Mhm.
So I think that's what they're going to end up doing is saying no more filibuster for things that we want. And of course, it'll set the precedent that they don't want, because if we ever get back in power, we can say y'all broke the precedent of the filibuster. We don't
Mhm.
need it anymore, and we can ram through a lot of things. Um, but again, they're doing things like they're acting like they're never going to leave power. So I expect them to break the filibuster tradition.
Yeah, different rules for them.
Hmm.
Surely, will be interesting to watch. I know for sure that people are gonna get more scared when and if that happens. So, all right. Um, Anything else we wanna touch on before we go?
Nah, I can't think of anything. Got some Subsects coming out. Please subscribe. Wrote one on um, how Senator John Kennedy, everybody's favorite idiot, how he uses tricks of the tongue uh, to um, to stab working class people in the back, getting them
Mhm.
upset about sales taxes, which they create. They push sales taxes, and then try to slip in things about how the estate tax for rich people is really the problem. So go check out that Substack, and I got some more coming too.
Yeah, that was a good one. And just a quick mention, honorable mention of Comey getting indicted. So we'll be watching that. We knew that was coming. Did you watch his video response
No, I
on that?
didn't. I didn't yet.
It's interesting. I mean, he kind of doubled down on it. He was like, "Yeah, this is the price you pay for standing up to tyrants."
Hmm.
So it's interesting. We'll be watching that too. Okay, everyone, remember to proactively schedule joy in your lives during this time. Meet up with your people, have some fun, enjoy this weather if you've got some good weather. It's important to stay close to each other and still enjoy the life that you have, and it helps us to get through mentally what else is happening in this world. So
Yeah, I
thank you.
removed Twitter from my phone. Thank God.
Oh,
It's like
look at
already.
you!
I still
I'm
have
like
it on my
I'm
computer.
shocked.
I know I have to do it just for my own mental health. So yes, it has
Yeah,
already
X
improved my life so
Twitter
much.
is a special brand of toxic. So good for you. That's
I'm proud of
inspirational.
myself.
Yeah, I'm proud of you too. Okay, y'all. Well, thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us. We'll send out the show notes and we'll see y'all next week.
Bye,
Bye.
y'all.